Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bruce Morrison, and I work in Sault Ste. Marie for Fisheries and Oceans Canada and support the Sea Lamprey Control Program, which is not just DFO. It also includes the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the USGS, and all those other organizations you see on here, as well as we work really closely with a lot of the agencies in this room and the conservation authorities and the landowners. It's a big list. I'm kind of excited to do this year's one, not just because of the history of our program, but also last year I told you when there was terrible marking rates and it was really bad seeing that once we got things back under control, it would go back to normal. So let's see if that pans out. The original direction from the Great Lakes Fishery Commission to us was to keep sea lamprey at levels that would help rehabilitate native fish and desirable fish species. So Lake Ontario actually didn't start into the program until in the 1970s. We started in the Upper Lakes and then into Lake Ontario to try to restore lake trout. I'm going to focus on the fish community objective of less than 2 in 100 marks on 17-inch fish. That's all lake trout. So here's that 2022 picture moving across the scene there. I don't know if the middle one's photoshopped or what, but
No, it's real.
it's real. But people gave me these things, and we were seeing multiple lampreys on every species of salmonid. I didn't have a picture of it, but reports of lamprey on carp right in the Erie Canal, which is really unusual. But they do eat anything they come into. And as for the, let's see what happened. You got to wait till the last few slides. So now I'm going to go into the more routine part of this talk. I run in my program the barriers, treatment, and environmental side of our program. I just actually set up a barrier this week. On Lake Ontario, we have 11 that are purpose-built, or 10 that are purpose-built and one that isn't. It's a fishway. And we monitor and maintain those, and we did them all last year. They were all operable. It's going to go fast with these. Larval assessment. Lexi's here if you have questions. She's sitting over there somewhere. But they go through all of the streams on Lake Ontario and check out treatment efficacy, barrier effectiveness, whether lampreys have recolonized or not, upper distributions. They basically give my guys the marching orders about where to go and when to do it with respect to treatment. So I can't read any of that from here. However, it's all good. Basically, we got everything done as we planned. And in this story, there's a couple of oddities. One really good news, no new infestations, but there were 2 streams that have had lamprey in them historically that had been offline for almost 50 years and another one for 18. And they both came online after the big 2021 year class. I'll call it, not the right word, but those are on the schedule this year, you'll see. They even went down east into the Gananoque River and Black Rivers. And one of the bad news stories from this assessment, and it's still happening, is that the dams on the Little Salmon River, which you may or may not know it's at the East End in New York, had many dams on it, and they're all starting to become so old they're not effective anymore. So we're looking at that river, to segue back to my barriers side, to put new barriers lower down in the town of Mexico with partners, not just with us, and ones that are more friendly to fish passage. So larval control, that's my side of the shop. We have about 66 streams that have had lampreys in them. 35 of those get treated regularly. Used to be 33 until recently. It's a ambulatory number. We completed all of our treatments except the Little Salmon and what's that one? Little River, I think, part of Fish Creek. You're going to see more in a minute. So the Black River, Lentic, right in the town of Watertown. We got that finished. That's our spray boat there, our new one. As my guy calls it, it's like driving a Zamboni, but on a river. And the Little Salmon and the Little River did not get done. But they're both on this year's schedule. This next slide takes a moment to talk about the key part of the colors. So on the far on left, there's 35 streams. Things that are kind of an orange color, those are the two new ones that came back online. And the ones that are yellow aren't treated on a 3 to 5 year cycle, but they're ranked or they're treated less frequently. And everything else is on a 3 to 5 year cycle or are called expert judgment. So in 2020, we did no treatments. That's second from the left. 2021, we were super lucky. New York State and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service out of Vermont did those top streams in New York. The top half's mostly New York. And then because of drought up in Lake Superior, we got to come back down, courtesy of New York State letting us do it, and Ontario to avoid salmon and stuff. We don't usually treat in the summer, but we got quite a few streams done that were not scheduled to be done in the fall, in the summer. Oh, sorry. Thinking ahead of myself here. 2022, we got everything done. 2023, everything done, and except for Little Salmon and that other one. And so in 2024, we have a really ambitious schedule. There's around 14 streams on there. And you'll see at the end how ambitious it is for the entire program, and there's a map at the end you'll see. So we are caught up on the control side. Barriers never went down, and larval's been on the every year since COVID. We're coming to those FCOs now. You can read that. The key thing here for this graph, I don't even tell you what the axes are. No, marking rate over time, and it's come back down. Some people predicted that it wouldn't come back down that fast, and it appears to have done so, or leveled off anyways. There's some catches to that you saw earlier this morning with lake trout showing lower survival. How do we get those numbers? We use traps around the lake at different barriers. This is where we do this is all the trapping locations, but we don't use each of those for estimating the adult index, which is another measure we use to monitor lamprey, adult lamprey. So the map on the left is it's the barriers we use, or traps we use to monitor lamprey and do our population index. The circles represent the density of lampreys running those rivers. So bigger is more, smaller is less. So from a representation perspective, you can see we're fairly representative. East end of Lake Ontario could be maybe done a bit better, but we get a good consistent number with excellent standard deviations. Later lunchtime discussion about that. What does that lead up to? This thing. So the status of adult sea lamprey, we use an index. In 2023, we think there were 56,000 lamprey. That's quite a jump. You have to be careful with this graph because it's basically a year behind. What you count in the spring this past year was what was in the lake the previous year, so to speak. It's well above the 3-year average too. The 3-year average is 27,000, and our target is 14. I'll read the bottom here. Nope. I gotta hit this again. Watch this slide. So that's our Humber River traps. Humber River's really neat. It's in Toronto or nearby. And if you look at that graph, the key point is in the last year we went right off the written record of that trap. That's one day's catch. We caught over 16,000 sea lamprey in that river alone. That used to be our index kind of target. The good thing with the Humber River is nothing survives. That's not a joke. It's true. We have never showed larval survival from that river yet. Bad thing for Toronto is that's not a good thing. Okay, almost done. Lake trout relative abundance, same kind of graph, but this one is different than what you saw this morning. That's why I was so curious about the graphs I saw. This is focused on one length class. It doesn't have more than that in it. And if you remember this earlier today, at the far right side, there's a downward trend in survival, which should have showed up here, but I don't understand it myself yet. So this shows that lake trout aren't really affected at that size class, 17 inches, but maybe they are. I don't know the answer to that because of this, maybe the strain game too. When you look across all the lakes, I wasn't here for the common session, but Lake Ontario is there in kind of a pink color, or whatever that is, purple. And we've kind of flatlined in the marking rate side. Abundance is up, but that's a year. Remember, that's a lag. So what will happen next year? We'll see next year. This slide's really interesting, given to me by New York State DEC. It's the number of lampreys observed on recreational fish in different zones in their side of the lake in New York. It's an extrapolation, but the trend is what I want you to watch, and across time. 2022, not surprisingly, right off the charts. This is from interviewing anglers. And then back down in 2023, just like you would hope to see if our program's really effective. So there's the ambitious schedule. You can see Lake Ontario there relative to everything else. So from the DFO perspective, we do all of Lake Ontario and all of Ontario's red dots this year, or we'll hope to, and we'll help in Michigan. And U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service takes care of everything else you see, including they're going to do the Conneaut probably in 2 weeks. If you fish on Erie, you can go see that. This is the ending. I'm already at the end. Good. So I'd like to thank everyone who supports this program, the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, and all of my guys on both sides of the border that keep us going. That picture's from this spring. That's new juvenile lamprey right near Mexico, actually more closer to Oswego. Getting calls already. And don't forget in June to come to Ottawa and see our annual meeting. That's it.